Okay, so I just started up Icarus. This is on the GTX1060. This is the beginning of the game. And I hosted up a, well, I guess it's, I clicked offline and hosted up like a sandbox version. And let's check the settings. So I went ahead and switched it to Epic just to start out there and see how it goes. Also, if you're wondering, do I have the latest graphics drivers that are designed for Icarus? And the answer is yes. So, to be clear, I just clicked on, the Epic preset, and that's all I've got. Now, this game seems to be saying it's trying to use DLSS, but I'll tell you right now, the 1060 shouldn't be able to use DLSS, so I'll turn that off. And if we go back here, notice the frame rate and visuals still seem about the same. So it wasn't actually using DLSS. Now this is a little bit weird because in most games, if you're trying to use DLSS, well, I mean, it doesn't even let you turn it on if you don't have a compatible card. Also note that I started in DX11 mode because the game on startup on Steam suggested that DX12 mode should just be used on an RTX 2070 or better. So there you go. Now it does look like we have FSR available, and this was only usable once you turn DLSS off. So if you have trouble getting FSR to work, you need to set DLSS to off. Now currently I have it off, so we can just kind of get a test here on how this is going. Now I did a video on the system requirements here. The GTX 1060 is listed as the minimum GPU, not the recommended, but the minimum. The recommended is an RTX 3060 Ti. And we can see here that at least at Epic settings, this GTX 1060 is absolutely struggling. Interestingly though, at 1080p, the Epic settings don't seem to be going over the VRAM limit here. So the 6 gigabytes of VRAM seems fine, because we're not even pushing up against it. We're at like 5.5 gigabytes if you look at the memory usage. And RAM usage is quite high. We're at 15 gigabytes of RAM. Now I'm on a 32 gigabyte system, so I'm curious if on a 16 gigabyte system it wouldn't even try to use this much. But that was one of the big things in the system requirements, was it said that 16 is the minimum on RAM, with 32 gigabytes recommended. So, you know, don't try to open a Chrome tab or two while you're playing this game if you're only on 16 gigabytes. And I'm curious how anybody's doing on 8 gigabytes of RAM. Let me know. Well, we can tell Epic's not the way to go here, but I am curious what FSR could do for us. It can't work miracles, so I don't think in the mid-20s it's going to do much. Let's go ahead and kick on FSR Ultra Quality. Oh, it gives us a sharpness slider. That's interesting. 0.95 is probably way too much, but yeah, let's go ahead and try it out. You know, that does get us closer to 30. Doesn't feel great. So, yeah. Ultra Quality, though, you know, the sharpness pass looks pretty decent. The sharpness is probably a little bit too high there. What if we drop that down to more like 30% sharpness? I think that looks less over-sharpened to my eye, so that looks a little bit better. Again, we're not even hitting our 30 FPS mark here, so let's go ahead and try a little bit more FSR, and then we will also turn down some settings, which might require a restart. Okay, we are now over 30 FPS. Now, I'm curious how much if I run around will actually stay over 30 FPS. Okay. Now, you can definitely tell that we're using FSR to render from a lower resolution here. So I think I'd rather turn down settings than use this aggressive of FSR at 1080p. Because honestly, even Ultra Quality at 1080p is a bit rough. Dropping down to Quality, you just don't have enough resolution to work with. I am going to test all of them out, though, for the sake of, you know, testing it out. So going down to Balanced here, we can tell our frame rate's actually getting into what I would consider almost playable. Still not great. But yeah, we're really able to see, especially in motion, like look at the leaves on the trees. You can tell it's really trying to, and look at the grass. Ooh, look at the grass in motion. See, when you're standing still, it tries to you know, edge detect and blend it all together, but when you move, it really struggles. Yeah, at that level of reconstruction. The game does look kind of pretty, though. Let's go down to Performance. So yeah, 1080p using the Performance setting is really just too much. Like, look how much detail we're missing here on that. But you know, it does significantly help the frame rate. So if you just want to play the game, it helps. Now again, we should really just turn down from Epic, but I wanted to test all those out and backed it off. See how much sharpness we've gained again. All right. So there we go. We can tell that Epic is, you know, not even gonna keep us at a stable 30 FPS without using FSR. So let's go ahead and turn down the settings, and this may require a restart. So let's go down to high. Yeah, anything with that symbol says it's going to require a restart. So I'm going to go ahead and switch, although I think I'm going to leave the textures up at Ultra, sorry, up at Epic, because we had enough VRAM. We're not hitting a VRAM limit here. So I think that would be a good trade-off, but turn everything else down to high. And I guess we'll have to restart the game. I'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, so I've loaded back in. This does appear to still be in the same area. And we are now, let's confirm it, but we're now on the high settings. So we are at high settings, but I left the textures up at Epic. And this is with the FSR turned off for now. By the way, also, of course, ray tracing is off. I don't have a ray tracing capable GPU. This is a GTX1060. Okay, it's looking like high settings can get us 30 FPS. I'll try running around a bit, and okay, we can drop down to 28, 27 if I'm sprinting around here, 25. Okay, so it's not gonna be an absolute locked 30 frames per second. So I'll take back what I was about to say. I was about to say, I guess their minimum GPU recommendation was based on 30 FPS high. Although, you know, it could be a 30 FPS average, because it does look like we go above 30 FPS as well as going below a little bit as well. Okay, now I'm curious now if at the high settings, since we have a little bit more to work with here, if dropping down to FSR on like maybe just the Ultra Quality setting, what that would do for us. Because here I can definitely tell a bit of a loss of sharpness, but we're also seeing that it's really helping us maintain a more stable frame rate. Now, I haven't played this game enough to know how like fast-paced this needs to be in terms of the gameplay. So I'm not quite sure if this is one of those games where you really need a high frame rate for it to work, or if I'm just going around gathering resources. Although again, FSR at 1080p is a little bit rough in terms of losing some details. So I don't think I'd push it any past the Ultra Quality setting, and I think it might make sense to turn down settings again. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to kill the Ultra Quality FSR so that we don't have that on when we restart. And let's also try out going down to medium settings. And again, I'm going to try keeping the textures up. Alright, we've loaded back in with the medium settings, keeping the textures up. So we are on custom because I basically just did medium with the textures up and currently no FSR. And yeah, okay, now the frame rate is feeling a lot better. Looks like we're in the mid-50s, running out into this area. It looks like we can still drop pretty low though. I'm keeping an eye on the VRAM to make sure it's not just having the textures up too high, but no, we are not pushing up against that 6 GB barrier. You can definitely tell the draw distance is worse now on these bushes as they kind of pop in here, so it certainly looks noticeably worse. And look how, like, shimmery these trees are. Can this possibly be right? Can it really look this bad on medium? very shimmery. So yeah, it looks, to my eye, just absolutely noticeably worse than it did at high. Now, even with that in mind, let's go ahead and try out some FSR at this setting, just to see if that can get us more like a 60 FPS experience without having to go to... Wow, guys! Look how much better it looks with FSR on. Like, yes, we lose detail, but do you remember how, like, shimmery and ugly the trees were? I think FSR is actually somehow on its, like, sharpening pass. It's actually, like, fixing that. I think it actually looks better with FSR on. Just due to whatever weird glitchy nonsense was happening with the tree branches. It clearly is a loss of resolution, though. I can tell it's on. Man, look at this. We're still in the 30 FPS range. Is my performance worse with FSR on? Guys. No, I guess it's about the same. I don't understand. Is this glitched? Okay, no, it's definitely worse now. But the trees don't look as shimmery. I think when we first loaded in, it was kind of bugged. Because do you see how like our frame rate's lower, but the trees aren't all glitchy now, just after switching FSR on and off? So I think that was kind of bugged out, which is interesting. Very interesting. Perhaps the game needs a little bit of work here. My stamina is depleted. Alright, so I don't know I don't know what's going on with the settings, but let's go ahead and keep on testing them. So I guess all that we have left to try out is going down to low settings. So we'll go down to low settings. I do want to keep the textures up because it does seem like we have the VRAM capacity to do that. And make sure FSR is off and all that. Okay. I'll see you guys after a... Look how fuzzy it gets again as soon as I switch the settings. That just has to be a glitch, doesn't it? I'm curious if turning FSR on and then back off again fixes that. Okay, turning it on, that looks more stabilized, doesn't it? And then turning it off... Yeah, it's stable again. Look at that. So there's some kind of glitch happening with that. I don't know what it is, but there you go. I'll restart the game to fully adjust to these settings. Okay, so we've loaded in now on the low preset. It at least doesn't appear to be doing all the weird shimmery stuff it was doing last time, which is nice. Let's go ahead and double check the settings. We're on low with the textures up to epic. And FSR is currently off. So yeah, if you see things shimmer weird, try turning FSR on and back off again. See if that does anything for you. Alright, it's looking like even at low settings, we are not able to hit 60 FPS. So I was correct in my system requirements video where I expected the minimum requirements not to be targeting 60 FPS, although it does look like we're holding well above 30. I feel like there's just a lot less going on low settings though. Because I guess the trees that are back here just aren't rendering in. Yeah, look at that. Wow. So keep in mind, if you're on low settings, you just like can't see anything. Watch the trees disappear as I back up. Oh, that's not great. Okay, well anyway, since we're still not managing 60 FPS, let's try FSR Ultra Quality. Can definitely tell things fuzzed a little bit. Again, FSR's a little bit rough at 1080p. Works a lot better at higher resolutions. Wow, did you... Guys, the pop-in is just... Look. Look at that. Oh no. Okay guys, I've gotta say, I have no idea if this game is fun to play, but I can tell you it does not run well on older hardware. The GTX 1060 is able to hit 60 FPS at low settings with epic textures and FSR on Ultra Quality, but at what cost? Look at the draw distance on this stuff. Bushes popping in right in front of you. Oh no. What do you guys think? I'll be testing this out on some other GPUs, I'm sure. I also have an RX 6600 and an RX 6800 XT. So keep your eye out for those videos in the future. And have an excellent day.